Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love. Okay, we are picking up from where we left off from our book Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude that we are reading by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. Okay, so we're on chapter 1. Which is called Meet the Most Important Living Person. We're halfway through this chapter. Okay, how the force of NMA repels. There is a very interesting story which illustrates how the force of NMA repels. It comes out of one of the southern states. There, where wood-burning fireplaces are still used to heat homes, lived a woodcutter who also was an unsuccessful person. For more than 2 years, he had supplied a certain homeowner with firewood. The woodcutter knew that the logs could not be longer than 7 inches in diameter if they were to fit this particular fireplace. On one occasion, this old customer ordered a cord of wood, but was away when it was delivered. On arriving home, he discovered that most of the wood was larger than the specified size. He called the woodcutter and asked him to have the oversized logs exchanged or split. "I can't do that," said the wood dealer. "It will cost me more than the whole load is worth." With that, he hung up. So the homeowner was left with the job of splitting the logs himself. He rolled up his sleeves and set to work. About halfway through the job, he noticed that one particular log had a very large knot hole which someone had plugged up. The homeowner lifted the log. It seemed unusually light and appeared to be hollow. With a hefty swing of the axe, he split the log. A blackened roll of tinfoil fell out. The homeowner stooped down, picked up the roll, and unwrapped it. To his amazement, it contained very old $50 and $100 bills. Slowly, he counted them. They amounted to exactly $2,250. The bills had evidently been in the tree for many years, as the paper was very brittle. The homeowner had PMA. His only thought was to get the money back to its rightful owner. He picked up the telephone, called the wood dealer again, and asked him where he had cut this load. Again, the woodcutter's NMA asserted its repelling power. "That's nobody's business but mine," he said. "If you give away your secrets, people will cheat you every time." Despite many efforts, the homeowner never learned where the logs came from or who had sealed the money inside. Now, the point of this story does not lie in irony. It is true that the man with PMA found the money, while the man with NMA had not. But it is also true that good breaks do occur in everyone's life. However, the man who lives with NMA will prevent life's lucky breaks from benefiting him, and the man with PMA will so arrange his attitudes that he will turn even the bad breaks into advantages. On the sales staff of the Combined Insurance Company of America, there was a salesman named Al Allen. Al wanted to be the company's star salesman. He tried to apply the PMA principles found in the inspirational books and magazines he read. He read an editorial in Success Unlimited magazine entitled Develop Inspirational Dissatisfaction. It wasn't long after that he had an opportunity to put into practice what he had read. He had a bad break. This gave him the opportunity to arrange his attitude so that he could use the PMA side of his talisman effectively. He developed inspirational dissatisfaction. One icy winter day, Al cold canvassed every store in a city block in Wisconsin. He walked in unannounced and tried to sell insurance. On that day, Al did not make a single sale. Of course, he was dissatisfied, but Al's PMA turned this dissatisfaction into inspirational dissatisfaction. Why? He remembered the editorial he had read. He applied the principle. The next day before setting out from the local office, he told his fellow salesman about his failures the day before. He said, "Wait and see. Today I'm going back to call on those same prospects, and I'll sell more insurance than all the rest of you combined." And the remarkable thing is that Al did it. He went back to that same city block and again called on every person he had talked to the day before. He sold 66 new accident contracts. Now, this was an unusual achievement, and it happened because of the bad breaks when Al trudged through the sleet and wind for 8 hours without selling a single policy. Al Allen was able to rearrange his attitudes. He was able to convert the negative kind of dissatisfaction that most of us would feel in similar circumstances of failure on one day into inspirational dissatisfaction, which resulted in success the next day. Al did become the company's best salesman and was promoted to a sales manager. The ability to turn the invisible talisman over and use a side which has the force of PMA rather than the side which has the force of NMA is characteristic of so many of our really successful people. Most of us are inclined to look upon success as coming in some mysterious way through advantages that we do not have. Perhaps because we do have them, we don't see them. The obvious is often unseen. Every man's PMA is his advantage, and there is nothing mysterious about it. Henry Ford, after he had achieved success, was the subject of much envy. People felt that because of good fortune or influential friends or genius or whatever they thought was Ford's secret, because of these things, Ford was successful. And no doubt, some of these elements played a part. But there was something more. Perhaps one person in every 100,000 knew the real reason for Ford's success, and those few were usually ashamed to speak of it because of its simplicity. A simple glimpse of Ford in action will illustrate the secret perfectly. Years ago, Henry Ford decided to develop the now famous motor known as V8. He wanted to build an engine with the entire 8 cylinders cast in one block. He instructed his engineers to produce a design for such an engine. To a man, the engineers agreed that it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gasoline engine block in one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway." "But," they replied, "it's impossible." "Go to work," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went to work. There was nothing else for them to do if they were to remain on the Ford staff. 6 months went by, and they had not succeeded. Another 6 months passed, and still no success. The more the engineers tried, the more the thing seemed impossible. At the end of the year, Ford checked with his engineers. Once again, they informed him that they had found no way to carry out his orders. "Keep working," said Ford. "I want it, and I'll have it." And what happened? Well, of course, the engine wasn't impossible at all. The Ford V8 became the most spectacularly successful car on the road, pulling Henry Ford and his company so far out in front of his nearest competitor that it took years for them to catch up. He was using PMA, and the same power is available to you. If you use it, if you turn your talisman to the right side, as Henry Ford did, you too can achieve success in bringing into reality the possibility of the impossible. If you know what you want, you can find a way to get it. A man of 25 has before him some 100,000 working hours should he retire at 65. How many of your working hours will be alive with the magnificent force of PMA? And how many of them will have the life knocked out of them with the stunning blows of NMA? But how do you go about putting PMA to work in your life rather than NMA? Some people seem to use this power instinctively. When it came to developing the Ford car, Henry Ford was one of these. Others have to learn. Al Allen learned by relating and assimilating what he read in inspirational magazines and books. Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude is such a book. You too can learn to develop PMA. Some people use PMA for a while, but when they receive a setback, they lose faith in it. They start out right, but some bad breaks cause them to flip the talisman wrong side up. They fail to realise that success is maintained by those who keep trying with PMA. They are like the famous old racehorse John P. Greer. John P. Greer was a thoroughbred of great promise, such promise in fact that he was groomed, trained and billed as the only horse that stood a chance of beating the greatest racehorse of all time, Man o' War. Don't let your mental attitude make you a has-been. In the Dwyer Stakes at Aqueduct in July of 1920, the two horses finally met. It was a magnificent day. All eyes were riveted on the starting post. The two horses got away evenly. Down the track they went, side by side. It was clear that John P. Greer was giving Man o' War the race of his life. At the quarter mark, they were even. The half mark, the three-quarter mark, and still they were even. At the 8th pole, neck and neck. Then, in the stretch, John P. Greer brought the crowd to its feet. Slowly, he edged ahead. It was a moment of crisis for Man o' War's jockey. He made up his mind. For the first time in the great horse's career, the jockey flicked him solidly on the rump with his whip. Man o' War reacted as though the jockey had set fire to his tail. He shot out ahead and pulled away from John P. Greer as if the other horse was standing still. At the end of the race, Man o' War was 7 lengths ahead. But the significant thing, from our point of view, was the effect of defeat on the other horse. John P. Greer had been a horse of great spirit. Victory was in his attitude. But he was so broken by this experience that he never really recovered. All of his races afterwards were weak, half-hearted attempts, and he never won again. People are not racehorses, but this story is reminiscent of far too many men who, in the boom years of the 1920s, started off with a wonderful attitude of success. They achieved financial success, and then, when the Depression struck in 1930, they experienced defeat. They were crushed. Their attitude changed from positive to negative. Their talisman flipped to the side that read NMA. They stopped trying. They, like John P. Greer, became has-beens. Some people seem to use PMA pretty much all the time. Others start and then quit, but others, the vast majority of us, have never really begun to use the tremendous powers available to us. What about us? Can we learn to use PMA as we've learned other skills? The answer, based on our years of experience, is a definite yes. This is the subject of this book. In the chapter that follow, we will show you, in the chapters that follow, we will show you how it can be done. The effort to learn will be worth it because PMA is the essential ingredient in all success. Meet the most important living person. The day you recognise PMA for yourself is the day that you will meet the most important living person. Who is he? Who is he? Why, the most important living person is you, as far as you and your life are concerned. Take a look at yourself. Isn't it true that you carry with you an invisible talisman with the initials PMA emblazoned on one side and NMA on the other? What exactly is this talisman, this force? The talisman is your mind. PMA is a positive mental attitude. A positive mental attitude is the right mental attitude. What is the right mental attitude? It is most often comprised of the plus characteristics symbolised by such words as faith, integrity, hope, optimism, courage, initiative, generosity, tolerance, tact, kindliness, and good common sense. A person with positive mental attitude aims for high goals and constantly strives to achieve them. NMA is a negative mental attitude. It has opposite characteristics to PMA. After years spent studying successful men, the authors of Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude have come to the conclusion that a positive mental attitude is the one simple secret shared by them all. It was PMA that helped S.B. Fuller overcome the disadvantages of poverty. It was PMA that motivated Tom Dempsey, despite his crippled leg, to kick the longest field goal ever kicked in a professional football game. And it was certainly a positive mental attitude that enabled Henry J. Kaiser to build a Liberty ship every 10 days. It was Al Allen's ability to turn his talisman right side up what motivated him to return to his prospects, the very ones who had refused him the day before and set a new sales record. Do you know how to make your invisible talisman work for you? Perhaps you do, perhaps you don't. Perhaps you have developed and strengthened your PMA until life is bringing you every worthwhile wish. But if you haven't, you can and will learn the techniques whereby you can release your power of PMA through its magic in your life as you continue to read this book. A positive mental attitude, what is it and how it may be developed and applied, is described throughout the book. It is the one essential principle of this book's 17 principles for achieving worthwhile success. Achievement is attained through some combination of PMA with one or more of the other 16 success principles. Master them. Begin applying each of them as you recognise them while reading Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. When you make each principle a part of your life, yours will be a positive mental attitude in its most powerful form, and the payoff will be success, health, happiness, wealth, or whatever definite aims you may have in life. These will be yours, provided you don't violate the laws of infinite intelligence and the rights of your fellow men. Such violations are the most repellent forms of NMA. In Chapter 2, you will find the formula by which you may keep your mind positive. Master that formula, apply it in all that you do, and you will be on your way to the attainment of your every desire. Pilot number 1. Thoughts to steer by. Number 1. Meet the most important living person. That person is you. Your success, health, happiness, wealth depend on how you use your invisible talisman. How will you use it? The choice is yours. Number 2. Your mind is your invisible talisman. The letters PMA, positive mental attitude, are emblazoned on one side, and NMA, negative mental attitude, on the other. These are powerful forces. PMA is the right mental attitude for each specific occasion. It has the power to attract the good and the beautiful. NMA repels them. It is a negative mental attitude that robs you of all that makes life worth living. Self-question. How can I develop the right mental attitude? Be specific. Number 3, don't blame God for your lack of success. Like S.B. Fuller, you can develop a burning desire to succeed. How? Keep your mind on the things you want and off the things you don't want. How? Number 4, like S.B. Fuller, read the Bible and inspirational books for a purpose. Ask for divine guidance. Search for the light. Self-question. Do you believe it's proper to ask for divine guidance? Number 5. Every adversity has a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit for those who have PMA. Sometimes the things that seem to be adversities turn out to be opportunities in disguise. Tom Dempsey discovered this as a cripple. Self-question. Will you engage in thinking time to determine how you can turn adversities into seeds of equivalent or greater benefits? Number 6. Accept the priceless gift, the joy of work. Apply the greatest value in life. Love people and serve them. Like Henry J. Kaiser, you will attract big and generous portions of success. You can if you develop PMA. Self-question. Will you search to find out how you can develop PMA as you continue to read this book? Number 7. Never underestimate the repellent power of a negative mental attitude. It can prevent life's lucky breaks from benefiting you. Self-question. PMA attracts good luck. How can I develop the habit of PMA? Number 8. You can profit by disappointment if it is turned into inspirational dissatisfaction with PMA. Like Al Allen, develop inspirational dissatisfaction. Rearrange your attitudes and convert a failure of one day into success on another. How do you think you can develop inspirational dissatisfaction? Number 9. Bring into reality the possibility of the improbable by acquiring PMA. Say to yourself, as Henry Ford said to his engineers, keep working. Self-question. Have you the courage to aim high and strive daily to keep your goal before you? Number 10. Don't let your mental attitude make you a has-been. When you become successful and a depression or any other unfavourable circumstance arises which causes you a loss or defeat, act on the self-motivator. Success is achieved by those who try and maintained by those who keep trying with PMA. This is the way to avoid being crushed. Universal principles, self-motivator form. Every adversity has a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Greatness comes to those who develop a burning desire to achieve high goals. Success is achieved and maintained by those who try and keep on trying with PMA. To become an expert achiever in any human activity, it takes practice, practice, practice. Man's greatest power lies in the power of prayer. That is the end of chapter 1. I will talk to you soon with chapter 2. Until then, take care, much love. Bye for now.